Welcome to 100 Yard of Football this evening. It's a very special show this evening. As what I'm going to do, and I'm Vincent Turner, the host of 100 Yards Football this evening, I'm comparing two receivers that's coming out of the 2021 NFL Draft. One of them is out of LSU University, Jamar Chase, and the other one is Davonte Smith, Heisman Trophy winner out of the University of Alabama. And I'll compare them to my greats. And what I mean by that is the people I chose, that the best I've seen in my whole 60 years of being on this earth. The first one, Jerry Rice, by way of Mississippi Valley State, the San Francisco 49ers. The second one, Otis Taylor, by way of Prairie View University, by way of the Kansas City Chiefs. And Kenny Burrow, by way of Texas Southern, by way of the Houston Oilers. So if you like the video this evening, please come in and share it, as I'm going to break down why these two receivers, Mr. Jamar Chase of LSU and Devonta Smith of Alabama, is going to be compared to this great man that's passing the torch down. So if you like the video this evening, please come in and share it. The past great three wide receivers that I got up on the screen this evening, I'm going to start with Jerry Rice, one of the best football players I ever seen in person. To me, pound for pound, the best player that ever played in the NFL. Stats are unreal. 23,000 yards receiving, 207 touchdowns, 14.9 yards average, and the young man has 3 Super Bowl rings. Jerry Rice was special down there at Mississippi Valley. The second gentleman, he was my hero when I was 9 years old. I'm going to go back to Super Bowl 4. He's out of Prairie View University by way of Houston, Texas, Worthing High School. That's right, Worthing. That's produced Michael Singletary. The late, great Cliff Branch. My man who played basketball at the University of Houston, Larry Mean Mishaw. Otis Taylor was special. And when I put Otis Taylor on my list, all I think about is that 46-yard reception he caught in Super Bowl 4 when he broke that tackle on Mr. Huckabee, and he took it all the way down the sideline, half-stepping. He was one of the best blockers that played at the position in this league. And finally, this goes out to all the Florida guys. And this is special for you, Bobby Butler, because you always talking about the 305. But it's North Florida I'm going to talk about. He's one of the best deep ball guys I've seen just before Randy Moss and Kevin Johnson. My man, 00, out of Texas Southern, by way of Jacksonville, Florida, Raines High School. Just had some super players. I'm going to start with Vince Coleman in baseball, Brian Dawkins in football, Terry LeCount in football, Patrick Sapp in football, and the great Harold Carmichael. Kenny Burrow made my list because in 1975, he did something that a lot of players didn't do at that time. He had over 1,000 yards receiving. He was the best receiver in the game. He had 8 touchdowns over 50 yards. 6'4", about 215, and had speed to glory. Now, let me talk about the two gentlemen this evening that I think compared to all these great guys that I'm talking about. I'm going to start with Devonta Smith. What a season did he have? Oh, my God. Pound for pound, the best football player in college football. That's why he won the Heisman. Left the SEC with 46 touchdowns, over 1,856 yards this season. I'm going to call him a small sample size of Marvin Harrison. The one thing that Mr. Smith reminds me of Jerry Rice. Probably one of the best route runners that's come to the 2021 NFL Draft. If you know about Jerry Rice, he was one of the best route runners that ever done it. When you look at Devonta Smith, his routes are crisp, sharp, and ability to break any defensive back down his legs. That's how special Devonta Smith is. And I think when he gets to the next level, what I'm going to think about is his skill set and how Jerry Rice was a great route runner. I think Devonta Smith is going to be on the next level. Now I'm going to talk about the next young man out of LSU who didn't even play in 2020. My man, Jamar Chase. What I like about the young man, 6', 208 pounds. When you look at him and that season in 2019, 1,740 yards, 20 touchdowns. But think about this. The young man averaged 20 yards a catch. And to me, he got that little Otis Taylor in him. If you go back to this film, he was breaking tackles, runs after catch. He was winning 50-50 balls in 2019. Very physical receiver. And a guy that's hard to chuck. And when you look at the speed element, he reminds me of that 00 Kenny Burrow. He was getting deep on people. And I'm going to break it off to you and break it down to you real quick on 100 yards of football. Look what Mr. Chase done. I know everybody was excited about what Davonte Smith did this year. No question about it. Roll Tide. Y'all got a great argument at saying he's the best receiver that came through the SEC last year. But if for my money, I like both of the young men, I'm going to take Jamar Chase because of this run reason. It's a saying that we have down in the 901 in Memphis, Tennessee. It's strength on strength, power on power. What I mean by that, the best against the best. What Jamar Chase did in 2019, every big game that came on LSU's schedule, he performed at a high level. Let me take you back. The Florida game in 2019, he went against C.J. Henderson, who's a first-round pick of the Florida Gators. You know what he did to him? He put 7 receptions, 127 on him, 2 touchdowns, added 18 yards a catch. And it wasn't like Mr. Henderson was not a guy who at that time, a lot of people was considered the best in the business in college football. That's when Mr. Chase started opening my eyes. Number 2, the game of the year against Alabama. Now, he went against 2 corners. Trayvon Diggs, who right now did his thing this past season with the Dallas Cowboys, second-round pick. And he did his thing against Patrick Surtain Jr., who everybody's saying is his best corner in this draft in 2021. You know what Mr. Chase done? 6 receptions, 146 yards, 1 touchdown, and had a beautiful 35-yard touchdown catch that he went over to Ron Diggs and got it. It reminds me a little bit of what Otis Taylor used to do to Mel Blount back in the day. Yes, sir, when the Chiefs played them Steelers. And when Otis Taylor used to do his thing against them Raiders. And then finally, Mr. Chase, this is why I'm saying he's the best receiver in the 2021 NFL draft. The biggest stage. When President Trump came to the national championship game, all lights, ESPN, Odell Beckham Jr. in the house to support his LSU Tigers. What did Mr. Chase do? Against A.J. Terrell, who was a first-round pick with the Atlanta Falcons, he put 9 and 221 on him, 2 touchdowns, and he caught, I think, a 60-yarder on Mr. Terrell, and he had a 35-yarder on Mr. Terrell. And you know what? It reminds me of that long, that deer, that antelope by the name of Kenny Burrow. When he was going 8 receptions for 50 yards, he had 8 receptions over 50 yards for touchdown in 1975. Mr. Chase was putting my mind back of that young man who played for the Houston Oilers. So when I compare these 2 guys to the greats I just mentioned, these guys are going to be special football players. And remember, this list is very objective because I know a lot of people expecting me to put Randy Moss on the list, Calvin Johnson on the list, maybe a Chris Carter. But no, in my lifetime, I saw Jerry Rice play up close and personal when he was at Mississippi Valley State, where he was playing with a coach who should get all the credit, but they don't even mention him. Because right now in college football, everybody's running this offense. And this evening, I want to give love to the gunslinger, Archie Cooley, because he was running that offense for Mr. Jerry Rice. And another guy that didn't get his due is Willie Tauten. And that's why Mr. Rice went to the NFL and became, pound for pound, the best player that ever played the game. And I know a lot of people are going to say Tom Brady. No question about it, because he got 7 Super Bowl rings. I consider Tom Brady the best quarterback that ever played. A lot of people are going to say Lawrence Taylor. But nah. Jerry Rice, in my book, is the best. And I'm a little biased because he's from the state of Mississippi. And as I always say, there's some in that water in Mississippi that produce greatness. James Earl Jones, one of the greatest actors ever. Morgan Freeman, one of the greatest actors ever. Walter Payton, one of the greatest running backs out of Columbia, Mississippi. Lynn Barney out of Gulfport, one of the greatest cornerbacks ever. And one of the greatest quarterbacks, even though his career didn't go over well, out of Drew, Mississippi, Archie Manning. And of course, my parents, who I consider the greatest parents in the world, who raised me with love and care. Chester and Inez Turner from the state of Mississippi. And then Otis Taylor out of that great of Texas, by way of Houston, that great high school of Worthing. He did some things at Prairie View. 57 career touchdowns. One of my best favorite players I analyzed. And all I can think about right now is how you took that sideline 46-yard route in Super Bowl IV and took it to the house in Tulane Stadium against the heavily favored Minnesota Vikings. And finally, Kenny Burrow. I know a lot of people are shocked because y'all thinking I'm going to say Randy Moss. Y'all thinking I'm going to say Chris Carter. Y'all think I'm even going to say Kevin Johnson. They were great players and they were respected Hall of Famers. But this guy here, he was the first one to do it deep. He's the first one to get deep at 6'4", 215, and he wore 00. It's only another player that wore the numbers, Jim Otto, who played center with the Oakland Raiders. Kenny Burrow out of Texas Southern Rains High School, as I said again. Terry Count, Brian Dawkins, Vince Coleman, great baseball player, and the great Harold Carmichael. Kenny Burrow, to me, was the first big receiver that did it at a high level. It's a shame he's not in the Hall of Fame. And my man, Otis Taylor. So that being said, I picked two guys who I think are going to be great players in these gentlemen's legacy. That's going to be Davonte Smith out of University of Alabama and Jamar Chase out of LSU. So thank you for this evening and allow me to come in your living rooms and tell you about these great players. I'm Vincent Turner. I'm for 100 yards of football. And let me say this before I leave this evening. 100 yards of football is not all about me. I got a phenomenal staff and people that I love and respect that's made my dream coming true this evening. I'm going to start out with my business partner out of Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Ronald Keeble. Second, the young man out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Mr. Jeremiah Long. Thirdly, the young man out of Delray Beach, Florida, two-time All-American, 12-year vet, Mr. Bobby Butler. Another gentleman who I consider the greatest high school football coach right now in the state of Georgia, Kevin the Bull Jones. And another young man who's head coach at Carver Bible College here in the Metro Atlanta area, who's special in my heart. His daddy was William Spencer. Back in the 1950s, he was one of the first African Americans that done it at a high level at Bowling Green. I love you, my brother, Brian Spencer. And finally, the young man that's produced my shows this evening. And he's the youngest member of 100 Yards of Football out of Douglasville, Georgia, where I live at right now. My man, Alexander High School graduate, the very talented Logan Landers. We are 100 Yards of Football, and I hope that y'all been enjoying us during this NFL season. And we are coming. As I like to say, Warriors come out to play. Y'all have a blessed evening on 100 Yards of Football.